Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us here at Vertical Response for our monthly partner webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started in just a few seconds. I wanted to thank you all for joining us for Integration Inspiration. We've got a tour of 3 common vertical response partner integrations that we'll review with Rob Zazweta, our Partner Integration Manager. Our hope is to show you how easy, flexible, and even customizable our vertical response integrations can be. We will be recording this and will be available if you can't make it or if you have to drop off, but do know that we'll have a Q&A at the end as well as be sharing some great partner resources with you. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand off to Rob.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rob Sisweta, and I'm the Partner Integration Manager at Vertical Response. My role here is to help our partners who are integrating with our API make their integration a success. I'm here during the evaluation process when you are first considering becoming a Vertical Response partner and considering using the API. And then once you sign the agreement and you become a full-time partner, I walk with you all the way through the end to make sure that your integration remains a success and keeps going strong into the future. So I want to briefly go over what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to start with a brief overview of the Partner API. If you want to get deeper into what the API can do overall, there is a previous webinar available both on our partner site and on the developer network site that really dives down into the capabilities of this powerful API. After that, I will tour 3 of the most common integrations: data synchronization, single sign-on through iframe, and the custom user interface, and then we'll have some time left over for a Q&A. So the first question you're probably asking is, why integrate with Vertical Response? The best reason is because it turns you into a one-stop shop for your customers. If you offer any kind of software solution to your customers, it's an opportunity for you to encourage them to use email marketing and stay with your brand. So it extends your brand and keeps them loyal to who you are and really adds a tremendous amount of value to the offerings you already have. The other reason is that you can develop a new source of revenue, whether you do it by including it as part of your existing revenue streams or whether you want to resell our services. There are plenty of options, and if you contact members of our business development team, they have some great ideas to help you do that. Our API is a SOAP-based API, and if you're not technical, all you really need to know about that is that it's language agnostic. In other words, it doesn't really matter what your software was programmed in, whether it's C# or Java or PHP or any of the other acronyms geeks love. You don't really have to worry about that. SOAP is available, and it's very, very simple to integrate. In order to use it, you must have the API enabled for your partner account. If you don't have it enabled, if you're already a partner and you don't know whether you have it enabled, contact your partner success manager. If it's not enabled, they can help you get that enabled, and if it is, they'll let you know, and then you get to talk to me. And if you want much deeper information about what the API can do, all of the documentation, some sample code, best practices, and more information as it comes along can be found at our developers network, which I'll even show you a little bit of how that looks near the end of the presentation. So the examples of common integrations. Before we dive into this, I want to make a couple of things clear. First, I'm going to go over 3 common types of integration. By no means are you limited to these types of integrations. When it comes to the API, the sky is really the limit. If you can imagine it, you can do it. Second, I've got a lot of time and effort estimates in here. The time estimates are broken down both by person hours, as well as the average amount of time in the course of weeks it'll take to make it happen. These are very, very rough estimates that are dependent entirely upon the complexity of your code, the level of experience of your developers, and a number of other factors. So please only use it as a general guideline. The 3 most common integrations are data synchronization, single sign-on using an iframe, and building a complete custom user interface. Now, this information, as I said before, is also available on the developers network and even dives deeper on the developers network into the technical implementation details, the specific methods you need to use, etc. But we're going to start with data synchronization. This is by far the most common and easiest type of integration we see our partners use. What it does is it allows you to take whatever data you have stored in your system that can be used with email marketing and very easily and seamlessly transfer it from your system to our system. That kind of data is the obvious data to start with: contact data, email addresses, first name, last name, any other kind of contact data you may have stored. You also have several custom fields. I believe it's up to 74 custom data fields that you can import over to aid with segmentation or to use with merge lists. And that's all part of just migrating the lists. The other kind of data that you can transfer over are pre-built HTML templates that you may have that you're storing on your system that you want to make available to your customers. Any kind of content that your system already generates in order to be applied to an email campaign, and anything else you can imagine that will help an email campaign work. From the opposite direction, you can also pull data back from vertical response in regards to the opens, click-throughs, bounces, and unsubscribes so that you can reintegrate that with the data stored in your system. The next logical step after data synchronization is single sign-on, which we'll jump into in a minute, but I just wanted to show you that it's a fairly simple step up from simply doing a data synchronization to then making it very simple to log your customers into the vertical response account without requiring them to provide their username and password all over again. Now, the estimate that I have on here is approximately 10 hours of developer time and about a week to turn it around. This varies wildly. I've been able to do it within a day and about a few hours, but it depends on how accessible your data is and what format it's in. The example that we're going to look at today is a company called VinNow. Now, they've been one of our oldest partners and definitely among one of our most successful. VinNow offers a point-of-sale system for wineries and tasting rooms. Now, what's really interesting about this particular program is it's not a standard, what we see with most of our partners, which is a software as a service application hosted out on the cloud. This is actually a program installed at the point of sale computer within the wineries and tasting rooms themselves. It's actually a Windows program that interfaces with vertical response by opening up a separate browser window and behind the scenes using our SOAP API in order to send the data. So it's actually a really interesting version, an interesting view of how data synchronization works. The challenge they had is they've got really solid, rich customer data. Whenever somebody comes into a winery or into a tasting room and they want to join a wine club or they make a purchase, they want to sign up with their information, the people in the winery can collect that information, put it in VinNow, and track information such as their favorite kinds of varietals, the amount of money they've spent over the past course of time, whether it be a quarter, a year, a month, what have you, what events they have attended, what kind of events they prefer to attend. All of that can be stored in the system and then can be used to segment that information in order to market to it directly. By integrating with vertical response, they've turned this into a very seamless experience that doesn't require any kind of downloading and re-uploading of lists or anything like that. It's all built into the system. So when you first get into VinNow and you start looking at the way that you can search data, there's a ton of different fields that you can use. And what we see on the screen here, these are just a few of the fields. Wine club, what kind of wine club they're a member of, their zip code, their state. Some of the fields you're not seeing are varietal preference. If they like Syrahs or Zinfandels or something along those lines, and you know that you've got a special coming up on Zinfandels, you can find all your Zinfandel lovers and make sure you market to them. Once you've chosen the criteria that you want to market on, you'll get your list back. And then right from here in the utilities toolbox, you can see that they have vertical response embedded directly in their program. When you click that, it loads the vertical response connector that they've built. And there are 4 items that you can perform here. You can log directly into your vertical response account from here, which opens up a new Internet Explorer window and automatically logs their customers into their vertical response account without requiring a separate login. They can upload the mailing list for the data that they just segmented out. They can download and process the bounces and unsubscribes. And this is really powerful because this is where we're talking about that second direction that you can pull data back out of vertical response. By taking that back and putting it in the system, they can create a real rich set of data that demonstrates the engagement of their customers, not only through the events and through the wineries, but also through their marketing efforts. And of course, you can get the report of unsubscribes and bounces and other information that's important for tracking customer information. Now, before you upload the list, you have to name the list. And when you create a list through the API, you have to provide a name for that list. And it can be a default name that you give it, for example, the date and perhaps the database you're pulling from. Or you can do as VinNow has done here and ask the customer to name that list, whichever makes the most sense. Since they're going to log them directly into the vertical response account, they want to be able to see that list in that account. So you can see they gave it a name. I believe this is actually a default name, but it is changeable. It is editable by the customer. But VinClub 3 bottle, so that when we log into vertical response, we'll actually see that list. Now, before they import it, they actually put up this anti-spam notice. So this is a pretty important piece of information that you do need to share with your customers at some point in time. It doesn't have to appear exactly like this, but vertical responses policies really are intended to ensure our reliability and ensure the deliverability of your emails and the emails of all of our partners and all of our customers. If you may have heard of the CAN-SPAM Act, it's a very loose set of laws that do kind of outline what is appropriate and what's not appropriate. Our terms of service go above and beyond that. For example, you're not allowed to purchase lists and market to those through vertical response. We insist upon opted-in lists. The best way to think about it is if your customers or your customers' customers have the expectation of receiving marketing emails from the senders, that's probably an okay list. But if they've never heard of them before, that's not an opted-in list. Once the mailing list upload is complete, you have the option to log directly into your vertical response account. And it opens up an Internet Explorer window because, again, this is not already in the browser. It's on an installed piece of software. And in the Internet Explorer window, if you go to the lists, you will see there's the list that we just uploaded, VinClub 3 bottle. And then from here, your customers can go through, or VinNow's customers can go through, and send out their complete email. They can go through the entire workflow by creating a new email, adding the content to the campaign, choosing a template, doing whatever they do, everything they can possibly do through vertical response. And it's all by syncing up that data. That's where they start. So as I said before, the logical next step from here is to go into a single sign-on. As you can see, VinNow already implemented single sign-on, but it is a little jarring because it does leave from their main product and opens up a separate window. With an iframe, you can actually integrate vertical response directly into the workflow of your site with the least amount of effort. When you become a vertical response partner, you get a co-branded site, which means that you have your logo showing up in the vertical response website along with some of your coloring. And you can actually leverage that co-brand by integrating as part of your existing system using an iframe. Now, the estimated time here, 20 to 40 hours, this assumes you've already done some of the data synchronization. If all you're implementing is single sign-on through iframe, it actually is a very quick and simple process. If you are an API customer already and you plan on using single sign-on, you will have to request that it be enabled for your account. By default, it is not enabled. And that's because your system actually takes over all of the login handling for those vertical response accounts once single sign-on is turned on. What single sign-on allows you to do is it allows your customers to log into your system using the username and password that you recognize for them. And then once they're logged in, once they go to vertical response through your system, all you have to do is provide your standard partner credentials, which is a partner certificate, your master username, and your master password to our API. Then you make a single method call that contains the email address of the sub-account that you want to access. That method returns a URL. You put that URL into an iframe, boom, your customers are logged in, and they didn't have to put in their email address and their password a second time. Very simple and very straightforward. The example that we're going to use is actually an integration that Vertical Response did ourselves as part of the Intuit Workplace. Now, you're probably already familiar with Intuit. Intuit provides the QuickBooks service for small businesses. QuickBooks is hosted on your desktop, and it is an accounting program. Many small businesses use it. It's very well known. They wanted to extend their brand, leverage their existing services, and provide more value to their customers by providing more services that are deeply integrated with QuickBooks and some of their other installed programs. So they created the Intuit Workplace. Vertical Response, seeing an opportunity to target more small businesses, decided to also integrate and provide Vertical Response as one of those options that add value. So when you go to the Intuit Workplace, you can install several kind of apps. It's essentially an app store play. And Vertical Response is just one of the many apps you can have that can actually access the data in your hosted QuickBooks application on your desktop. So when you first log into the Intuit Workplace, this is what you see. You see the applications that you have already installed, and in this case we have 2 applications installed. The Vertical Response Data Connector and the Vertical Response Login. You can install all kinds of other applications too that can access your QuickBooks data and make it actionable for various reasons: marketing, uh, getting more customers, figuring out more ways to kind of slice and dice and segment. There's all kinds of opportunities in here: Smartsheet, Expensify, etc. All of this acts upon the data on your installed QuickBooks application. So Vertical Response broke it down into 2 applications. The first is the Data Sync application. And this is what it does. Vertical Response goes into QuickBooks and grabs all of your customer data, including your email addresses, phone numbers, first name, last name, etc. Once you've selected the data that you want to move, you click on Sync Now, and it takes all that data and creates a new list under your Vertical Response account where you can then mark it to it. Once you have completed that synchronization, you go back to the Intuit Workplace, and you choose on the Vertical Response Login, which is the second button here. It logs you directly into Vertical Response, and as you can see, this is co-branded. Because this was integrated by Vertical Response, we've actually got our branding here, but we did some special branding with the for Intuit Workplace. This whole logo up here can be replaced with your logo, and the coloring that you see throughout the site can match the coloring of your design and your layout so that it's a very clean, complete experience. And this is actually iframed as part of Intuit. There's an Intuit nav bar up here and an Intuit footer down here that still has all of their information. Within Vertical Response, because it's an iframe solution and because it's the complete suite of services offered by Vertical Response, I can go through the entire workflow once again. I can create a new email campaign, I can attach my list, I can add more lists, you can create surveys from this data, you can mail postcards to this data. All of the things that are available through a standard Vertical Response account are available through here. And the iframe solution allows you to not only leverage your co-brand, but the full power of all of the services that Vertical Response supports. You can turn off postcards and surveys if you want and just have them use email marketing, but all of our email marketing tools are at your customer's disposal using the solution. And then once a user in this particular situation is done, if they want to go back and use one of the other applications they have installed that interacts with QuickBooks, they only have to go back up here to the Intuit dropdown. They can choose another application or go back to the home page, and they're still in the Intuit system. So it's all tightly integrated, all seamlessly working together, and it creates a really solid user experience for Intuit's customers. Now, the final integration type that I want to show you is a custom user interface. This builds upon the first 2 integrations. In fact, as you probably already noticed, each of these integrations really build upon each other. Data synchronization is pretty much the simplest integrations, the one that most people start with. They might move on to the iframe once they've got their data synchronization in place to really seamlessly connect with Vertical Response. And then if they want to leverage the time, experience, money they spent in developing their own interface to allow their customers to take advantage of that, they can go to the next logical step, which is a complete custom user interface. A complete custom user interface is totally seamless. You would be creating all of the user interface elements and recreating all of the email workflow using the Vertical Response system as the engine that drives it. So as you can imagine, it actually takes a lot more time and a lot more effort, and actually 40 to 60 hours, depending on your developer's time and how complex your code existing is. It might be a little conservative of an estimate. You want to pull it out a little bit more. But the best part about it is you control the complete user experience, and at the same time leveraging our industry-leading email marketing and, most importantly, our deliverability. We hover around 98.5+% of deliverability, and that's very difficult to build. It's a lot of work and a lot of effort. You get the advantage of taking care of that. You let us handle the email marketing while you handle the customer experience. The example we're going to look at is GiveZoox. GiveZoox is a really great example for this because, well, it's a great product. They provide fundraising and event management for nonprofits. What they do is they allow nonprofit people to come in here, create events, create fundraising drives, and then promote those campaigns using email marketing. They've invested a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of effort in educating their customer base on how to use their system. And rather than use an iframe solution, which does require them to kind of do a little bit of a context shift and learn how to use a vertical responsive system, albeit a very easy to use system, they wanted to leverage the investment they already made and create a complete user experience that they control end to end. And that's why they've got a custom user interface. Within GiveZoox, they've got their contact list, which acts as, they call it, the address book. All of their donors, all of their potential donors, all of their past donors exist in here. And they can segment according to various tags and various pieces of information attached to each contact. You can see this contact tag cloud. This is actually fairly innovative. I really like this. You can go in here and click on a alum parent, and anybody who has been tagged as alum parent will come up in the list. You can then export them as a CSV or into vertical response. You can also import contacts for people who, for example, have signed up at an event or have signed up through your website. You can import them as a CSV or import them from your emails, and that's how they get into the GiveZoox system. What's important to notice here is GiveZoox is handling all of the list management within their system. Because they're never going to expose their customers to vertical response, they have to take responsibility for list management. They also have to take responsibility for email creation. And they provide a couple of options for creating new emails for their customers. They have email templates that are already in place, that are already set up for their customers to use for specific events or specific campaigns, specific fundraising drives, whatever it may be. At the same time, their customers can create new templates, upload them, and have GiveZoox manage that and put in some default content that may already exist in the system elsewhere. So they're able to reuse content that customers have already supplied without having to worry about creating it all over again. You can also do email solicitations, which is also pre-built templates that are very easy to use. Now, one thing to notice over here is email balance. When you have a complete custom user interface that sits on top of a vertical response, you have to manage the transactions. You have to manage how those credits are going to be used, sold, etc. And the email balance here shows how many credits they have left. You are by no means required to expose vertical response. But if they want to add more credits to their sub-account, the users of GiveZoox have to contact GiveZoox and purchase it through them. And that's one of the other important things you have to realize. If you're doing a custom user experience, you do have to figure out how you're going to handle the credit balance and how you're going to handle purchasing those credits for your customers. And if you contact our business development team, by the way, they have some great ideas to allow you to not only make that easy, but to monetize it. The biggest part of a custom user experience is email creation. Now, if you've been using vertical response for a while, you're probably familiar with the fact that a few months ago we released our new email creation tools. This is a huge amount of effort that really makes it drop dead simple for people of any technical level to be able to immediately create an email campaign using one of our more than 700 templates. It's a huge undertaking. And if you want to go in and create your own email creation tools, you have to understand that it's not a straightforward, simple thing to do. Now, there are certain situations where maybe you've already got a template set up and you want to allow certain areas to be editable. That's simple and straightforward. And that's kind of what GiveZoox has done here. They've got a lot of these templates already pre-built, and they've identified the areas in those templates that their customers are allowed to edit. And when they edit it, it pops up this window that is a what you see is what you get WYSIWYG editor that allows you to go in and create HTML-styled email without having to know HTML. They know their customers, they know what their customers' needs are, they know exactly how to satisfy those needs, and therefore they've chosen to do a custom user interface in order to meet those needs. And it really does work well for them. Once they've entered the email and they've attached the list and they're ready to go, again, all through GiveZoox, they can send out the email. And then once the email's gone out, GiveZoox will hit the vertical response API and pull back all of the campaign data, all of the opens, clicks, bounces, etc. More importantly, so you can see the summary up here. So this is at a glance, same kind of detail, how many were open, how many were clicked, etc. But more importantly, if you look down here, you can actually see this information associated with each individual account. So you can get a real good idea of who's genuinely engaged with your email marketing campaign and can create a follow-up email to those who perhaps opened it, clicked through, etc., to maybe offer a special offer to them. For those who maybe opened it and didn't click, maybe you want to send them a special offer to kind of sweeten the deal. All kinds of options are available to you. So in summary, here's the data synchronization, single sign-on, and customer user interface. Again, it's a really good way to kind of get a comparison, and each one of these builds upon the next. If you start with data synchronization, you can start a phased development if you want to get all the way to a custom user interface. You start with the data synchronization, offer that to your customers, either allow them to log into their own vertical response accounts or create a quick single sign-on with a new window. Move on to an iframe single sign-on where you create your navigation around the iframe that vertical response will live in. And then if you want to take that next step, you want to control the complete user experience, you can build on the first two and have a complete custom user interface. So it's very simple, very straightforward, and you can get your customers using vertical response right out of the gate. All of this information, as I said before, is available on the Developer Network. And the Developer Network's a fantastic resource, not only for the geeks out there who are going to be implementing this, but also for the business folks who want to get a better idea of what's involved in getting these integrations complete. Diving deeper, everything we've talked about today is available under the API documentation, under the developer's reference, under common integrations. Under common integrations, you can see that I've got an overview and then a page dedicated to each of these integrations. Each of those pages contain the actual methods used to integrate, to implement these integrations, and a lot of the detail involved in making it happen, a lot of the workflow, etc. If you have any questions about the technical details, of course, the Developers Network is the first place that I would recommend you go and check it out, because that's where all of the nitty-gritty details are. But if you have any specific questions about ways to implement that you don't find answers to there, feel free to contact me directly. If you're evaluating the API or you're an existing partner and you're interested in the technical details, that's what I'm here for. Call me, send me an email, let's connect, and let's figure out a way to make this work for you. If you're not already a partner with Vertical Response, or you're interested in ways that you might be able to monetize some of the things that we're talking about here, you'll want to contact Josh Baumrund. He is our Director of Business Development, and his phone number and email address are here. He's the perfect guy to talk to get everything you possibly need to move forward and to make this work for you and to generate more revenue. And of course, if you're an existing partner, contact your partner success manager. If you don't know whether you have the API enabled or you know you don't have it enabled and you want to enable it, your partner success manager can make that happen. And I want to thank you all again for attending today. And at this point, I'd like to open it to questions.
All right, so it looks like, Rob, we did have a question from the audience, and one of them is, can you apply your own company brand at one level, 2 levels, all 3 levels, or do you have to use the custom integration to incorporate your branding throughout the product?
So in order to use the Partner API, you have to have a VR for Developers partner account. And the VR for Partners developer account actually gives you that complete branding all throughout the site, just as you saw here. So whether we're talking about a simple integration, we're talking about a data synchronization, or custom UI, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. And there's no different levels, by the way, for that. But you will have complete control over that logo on the top and the coloring within your site, and that is available at all levels. And let me just clarify something I just said. We've looked at 3 different integrations today, from fairly simple and straightforward to fairly advanced. These are all done with the same account. You're not looking at any additional charges to make this happen. You're not looking at any additional levels of membership. All of this is available to you with the base membership of VR for Developers. If you've got the API enabled, you can do all of this without any additional cost.
Okay. So another question that we had was, you mentioned in the GiveZooks piece that that the partner has to support all their own lists and everything. How does that work as far as if somebody wants to go that deep in branding, they're going to have to support it themselves? Is that correct?
That's correct. So if you want to create a custom user interface, you have to duplicate the entire workflow yourself. That means list management, grabbing the lists, moving the lists over to vertical response, doing any kind of list segmentation that you want to perform, any kind of deleting members of lists if they exist on your local system and you need to remove them from the vertical response system. Now here's one piece that I didn't mention that's really important to talk about here. Unsubscribes and bounces are handled all by vertical response. All of the click-throughs, all of the tracking, all of the opens, bounces, unsubscribes, vertical response takes all of that off your back no matter what. So whether you're using the data synchronization or whether you're using custom user interface, You don't have to worry about that. All you have to worry about are the pieces that you're implementing. But again, going back to customer user interface, list management means getting those lists into your system, moving to vertical response. You also have to figure out how the email campaigns are going to be created, how the HTML and text versions of those campaigns are going to be created, how to test them. It's not required that you send a test email to your customers or that you let them preview it, but strongly recommended. That way they can see what their email is going to look like before it actually hits the recipient's inbox. And then, of course, actually launching the email, which through the API is really a single method.
Okay, we have another question here. We have an audience member who's noticed that we have a free API available on the Vertical Response website. How does that differ from the Partner API, and why would I want to invest in Partner API versus using the free data calls that might be available?
That's a great question. So Vertical Response actually offers two different APIs. We have the Enterprise API and the Partner API. The Enterprise API is tied to individual accounts, and it doesn't give you any control over sub-accounts. It's really the difference between a standard Vertical Response account and a partner account. When you have a partner account, you have control over all of the sub-accounts that are attached to your partner account. And you can either leverage a discount to use those, or you can monetize those by collecting a commission on them. But one way or another, you actually have control over those sub-accounts as an administrator and can log into them individually. With the Partner API, you can do all of the same things, but completely programmatically. With the free Enterprise API, you can only access a single account, and only that account for which it was attached to. So really, it's simplicity of use at the end of the day. You're paying for the ability to use an administrative account to access sub-accounts and have a lot more power in regards to providing email content, moving lists around, tying bounces and unsubs together if that's something you want, tying the email credits and transactions together so that they can all use those transactions and your master account controls that, and also just simplicity of access.
I would imagine that some of that added value is also getting you as a resource, and
Oh,
the partner success managers and Rob.
that's another good point. I love to talk up this part of the partner program, not just because of me, because yeah, you get me, and that is great, and I do believe I'm the best part. But that's actually not true. The real best part of the partner program are our partner success managers. You actually have a dedicated resource you can contact at any time who will help you through any questions or any challenges you face as a vertical response customer. And they are highly knowledgeable. In addition to that, all of your sub-accounts have direct access to our top tier of customer support, our VIP level of customer support. So it's really the best option when you're trying to make the most out of email marketing for your customers.
I've got another one here. I've noticed that some of the emails I receive from Vertical Response have a footer that's already attached to the bottom that says Vertical Response on it, or might have the company name. Is that configurable? Is that something that I can suppress or add?
It's completely configurable at this level. If you do the VR for Developers program, it is completely configurable, which is to say you can replace it with your own logo and your own link, or you can remove it altogether. Now, removing it altogether, I strongly recommend against because it's a huge viral opportunity. Consider this. Your logo is at the bottom of that email and it links back to your website. Every single one of your customers who sends it to their recipients is going to have that logo in their inbox. They click on that, you get a hit. It goes right back to your site, and now you've sent your message out to all of your customers' customers. It's a really fantastic option, and I highly recommend you take advantage of it.
Fabulous. Well, that's about all that I have in the Q&A section here from our attendees. If you guys have any questions, don't be afraid to contact Rob, Josh, or your partner success manager. And Rob, can you put on the slide that has the contact information?
Yeah, oh, you bet. There it is.
Fabulous. So there's our main contact information for anything having to do with the vertical response integrations. If you have questions about the API, do not hesitate to contact us or check out the developer network. Thank you very much for joining us again for the July Partner webinar. You all have a great afternoon.